Hello and welcome to this hard drive data recovery video. Now the drive we are going to try and recover the data from is this laptop hard drive. Now when you're repairing a hard drive, the first thing to do is have a listen to how it sounds, because that can tell a lot about what's actually wrong with it. So let's plug this into an external drive enclosure and see what kind of sound it makes. So, as you can hear, that does not sound very promising for our little hard drive. Now, to me, it sounds like it's having trouble spinning up. This is what a hard drive should sound like. And this clearly did not sound like that. So, what that says to me is that perhaps the motor has gone, but I think the more likely reason for it not spinning up is that the hard drive heads have gotten stuck on the hard drive platter, which is preventing it from starting to spin. So the first thing you can try is hit it sideways onto a table surface. You can try it whilst it's trying to spin up, because it can actually help to get the heads loose. But this can obviously cause damage. So I stress, only do it if you can't afford data recovery. So that's the first thing you can try. And if that doesn't work, what you can try doing is what this video is actually going to be about, which is opening the drive and moving the heads off the platters manually. So to open a drive, you need a set of Torx screwdriver bits and a screwdriver, obviously. So the first thing to do is just select a screwdriver bit that actually fits your screws. In most laptop drives this is T6, so that's the screwdriver bit I'm going to use. And then we can begin just to remove this top cover. Okay, so before we start opening this drive up, I must stress that if you're planning on doing this at home, that you are doing it under your own risk, because I'm not a hard drive technician or anything. I'm just sharing my experiences with opening up drives and restoring the data from them. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's begin opening this up. Now, you've probably heard that opening a drive in anything but a clean room causes the drive to be destroyed, basically. And there is kind of truth in this, but I'm not sure how much of it is true, because I think some of it is just sort of like scare stories spread by data recovery centres so that they get more sort of business. But it is true that you do want to keep dust landing inside here to a minimum, because I suppose it can interfere with the heads reading the data, but I don't think it causes anything to be destroyed. It just interferes, really. So when you are opening up your drive, just make sure that you try and keep it as clean as possible. And before you put the lid back on, just blow on it just to make sure that any dust that has landed on it has been blown off. But if there are some leftover bits of dust, these are likely to fly off the platter when the hard drive is turned on by both centrifugal force and by the draft that's caused when it's on. And there is a little filter, which I'll point out later, which does catch stray particles, so it's not too much of an issue. But if you are really concerned about stray particles landing on the platter compromising data, what you can do is make a clean air enclosure, which is basically just a box, a fan and a filter, and you can open the drive in there. I might make a video later at some point on how to make one of these clean air enclosures, but it does just depend on the demand, because it's a bit of a niche thing to sort of want, really. Anyway, so once you've gotten all the screws undone, there is usually one last screw under the sticker, and you can usually find it by scratching the surface with your fingernail until you find an indentation, and then once you find it, you can stick your screwdriver through the sticker and undo it that way. So let's take a look, and if our theory was correct, the hard drive head should be on the platter, which it is. So as you can see, the hard drive head is in the middle of the platter, and it should actually be parked just here, which it clearly is not. So what we can try and do is manually push this into the parked position. So to do this, I'm going to use a little hook, which is actually just a dental thing, and what we need to do is just turn the hard drive platters whilst we are pulling on the head, just to reduce the stress. So always turn it counterclockwise, as that will ensure that you don't pull the heads underneath the actual head unit. So I'm just going to use the screwdriver, because there is a screw in the center spindle. So we can just turn this and pull on the head. And there we go. As you could hear, that sounded like they were really stuck, so I have no idea whether this drive is actually going to work after being so stuck. Just check the drive for any big particles, and it seems okay, so we'll just put the lid back on. And by the way, this is the little filter I was talking about, and this catches any particles that might have landed on the hard drive platter. So we'll just put the lid back on and see whether it works. So now that the hard drive is back together, let's get the hard drive caddy and plug it in, and just see if it starts spinning and whether it is detected by the operating system. And it's worth noting that I do have disk management open, so that we can see whether the drive is detected by the computer, because sometimes it might have an incompatible drive letter and then wouldn't be mounted. So we've just got disk management open so that we can see all drives that are connected to the system. So let's turn it on and hopefully it'll spin up. Oh my goodness! There it is! There's the drive, 232 gigabytes, detected and successfully working. So we'll just add a drive letter to it, and hopefully all the data will be accessible. So I've just added the drive letter to one of the partitions, as you saw, and here are the files, all on that drive. So hopefully I'll be able to get all these off, but it does look like they are accessible. See, we can go into a desktop and everything, so I'll just start these transferring. So now that we've got all the data off, what I'm going to do is just run a error scan of the entire surface of the drive, just so that we can see how much of it actually is damaged and how much is still usable. So we'll just start it off. Right, so as you can see, the scan is detecting a few damaged, inaccessible sectors. Now, I think that these have been caused by the head actually making contact with the platters, rather than particles that were let into the drive, because it really was quite stuck. So I'm actually quite surprised it's not worse than this, but it's just worth noting that the percent of damaged blocks is only 2%, which means that even if it was 100% full, 98% of the data would be able to be recovered, which is it's a decent number. So I hope that if you have had the same issue with your hard drive, that this video has been somewhat useful in helping you to fix it. Now, good luck if you do attempt it, and remember that it is at your own risk. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you are interested in DIY things, you can perhaps check out my channel and maybe subscribe if you think it's interesting enough. I'm Matt, and thank you for watching. Oh, by the way, in my next video, I think I might try transplanting some hard drive platters just to see whether it works. So stay tuned for that. Okay, goodbye.